I know you got some story, John. I know you do from your music DJs.
No, I'm just thinking it kicked off the beach volleyball craze, too, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Right. There you go. Nice work. Mm-hmm. Nice work. So this is from yesterday. Pete Hegseth, of course, Secretary of Defense, was on with Will Cain, Fox News, and Will also is on KCMO Talk Radio every night at 9 o'clock. And they were talking about a surge in military recruitment and how we're seeing this across the United States since Donald Trump got into office. And I want to play a part of this clip, and then I also want to get to you on this and whether or not you're seeing this, especially with, of course, a large military background and presence in this community in the Kansas City area. There are a lot of people who I know were hesitant to have themselves or their kids join the military over the last few years. Let's be honest. There were a lot of reasons that people said, you know what, I don't want to do it. There was the woke nonsense. There was, listen, the COVID-19 vaccine requirements that the Army wisely rescinded in 2023. There was all that insanity where people were getting fired from serving this country because they wouldn't get the COVID shot. The Army had that requirement as well for a couple of years after the shot came out. They dropped it. Recruitment went up, but they really are getting a bump here the last couple of months. Here's what Pete Hegseth said to Will Cain yesterday on this front.
There you are working out with the troops, Mr. Secretary. I've heard from the guys. I know what this does for morale, and we've seen what it's done now for recruitment. In part, many different factors are going into this, but you guys have seen, we have the numbers I think we can share, what's happened with recruitment in the military since you've taken over as the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Trump bump. It's the Commander-in-Chief, first and foremost. He's got the backs of our warfighters, and they know it. And so the young men and women of America are prepared to stand up. Look at those numbers. They're historic over multiple decades. And I get to see them out, whether it's Panama City, whether it's in Guam or Japan or the Philippines or on bases here in the U.S. or out in Germany and Poland. You look into the eyes of these young Americans who are giving up the best years of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible. And those best moments are in the morning. It's still not quite light out. We're out in formation, doing PT. You get to hear the real story. You get to thank them for what they do. You find out where they're from. And they know that I have been in their place not that long ago. And that I want to have, just like the president, their best interest in mind, that we're going to.
There you go. That was Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary, yesterday with Will Cain, talking about what he called the Trump bump when it comes to military recruitment. And you look at the numbers. Army is up 7,000 recruits February of 25 versus February of 24. Navy is up 6,300 year over year, and the Air Force up 2,200 year over year. So these are the numbers that you're seeing. And what I thought was fascinating is that there were some more mainstream media, I guess you would say, opinions on this. And what they're saying is that, Trump's getting a bump in military recruitment, but this all started back in 2024, don't you know? Yeah, this is ABC News. Military officials say recruiting off to strong start in 2025, building off of recent trends. Building off of recent trends. What's the implication there? Well, Joe was doing pretty well at the back end of his tenure. And they write here, from 2023 to 2024, during the final year of Joe Biden's administration, recruitment across the services jumped 12.5%, according to the Department of Defense. Now, I don't deny that. But here's the thing. What happened, and we just told you, what happened in 2023 that would then allow a bump to take place year over year? They dropped the COVID-19 shot requirement. They got rid of it, which they should have never had in place to begin with. When you're talking about the youngest, healthiest, most in shape people in the country who were always, we knew this when the thing came out, who were always the least vulnerable, knowing full well it wasn't preventing the spread of anything, right? It was about protecting that person, and that person, in many cases, at that age, at that level of health, didn't need it anyway. So, yes, they got a 12% bump from 23 to 24 because, well, they finally revoked their COVID-19 shot requirement. So, of course, they're going to have a bump. But to say that's like Trump is just feeding off of the Biden bump on military recruitment, man, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. 913-408-7957. I want to get our response from the military community in Kansas City on this front. And also, we got to tell you about a state that now has some of the most restrictive gun laws in America, and it borders one of ours. We'll get to that coming up on 95.7 FM KCMO.
Brought to you courtesy of the red wine.
Are you buying this Trump bump that Pete Hegseth was talking about yesterday in military recruitment over the first 3 months of the Trump administration? The numbers back it up. Army's up 7,000 recruits over February 24 versus February of 25. Navy's up 6,300. The Air Force is up 2,200. 913-408-7957. Obviously, an enormous military community here in the Kansas City area as well. So these are the numbers that you're seeing play out in real time. There is a media angle, and I guess you would call it a Democratic angle to this, where they will say, well, Joe was doing great. Biden was doing awesome down the home stretch in recruitment.
Come on, man.
He was up 12.5% from 23 to 24 when it comes to recruitment across the services. It's easy to be up 12.5% when you're at the bottom, right? It's like anything else in life. If you're a Major League Baseball player and you're batting 200 and suddenly you're batting 220, would you say that that's good? No. What do you mean? The guy's batting 200. He's at 220. I'm supposed to give him a big contract? Well, I'm up 10% my batting average. Okay. If a guy's batting 300 and he goes to 330, you're like, damn, that's good. So percentages can always be screwed with and toyed with. I mean, that's just basic math. So that angle, to me, does not hold up at all. 913-408-7957. Mike's in Olathe. Go ahead, Mike. You're on KCMO.
Hey, man. After I taught in Derby, I became an Air Force officer under Reagan. Same kind of vibe that's going on right now. What I'm concerned about is the long term, because 8 years later, 250,000 officers that were succeeding, and I was killing it. I loved it. I would have made that a career and then gone back to teaching. But they had a drawdown because Congress decided to cut the budget, and he negotiated with George Mitchell, and all of a sudden 250,000 up to 500,000 officers and good people had to get out in the prime of their careers. I'd been in for almost 10 years. What I'm concerned about is the next, after 4 years, get it going and all we had to do was pee in a cup. There were no COVID shots or anything like that. You wanted a flu shot, you got one. Nothing was forced. Hasn't been that way anymore. But now that it's changed, yeah, sure, there's people coming in because they got rid of that, that limit in the last year of Biden, but had nothing to do with him. What's happening now is a patriotic move to want to serve because guys want to be in. But when the Congress and stuff take over and all of a sudden they use it as a pawn to cut the budget, that's when you have a problem. So we've got to really use this and make this a part of a campaign 3 years from now with JD, whoever's running, because it's a major deal. You will lose people if, let's say, a squish like a lefty gets in. You'll have guys, and morale will go down, and guys will get out, guys being guys and gals. So we got to figure out a way how to maintain it and use it as a campaign strategy in 3.5 years. You don't hear about it much, but it's huge because you'll maintain this and you'll keep getting stronger.
I totally agree, Mike. I think you're right. There will be an ebb and flow to this depending on, of course, who's in office going forward. But here's the good thing. You take advantage of it now. You try to bump up recruitment now. And let's be honest, if people are enjoying the job, they'll go through an administration that they may not like, assuming there's nothing crazy like, take this COVID shot that you don't need, that doesn't really do anything anyway when you're 22 years old and super healthy.
That is correct, because guys that stayed in through Clinton, even though they thought, oh, look out, here we go, even though Clinton wasn't a real positive military favor guy, at least they endured that. My dad endured Carter and a few others.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I mean, if you told me that there was going to be a Democratic president and it was going to be Bill Clinton, I'd be like, what? Trust me, based on where things are going, it could be a heck of a lot worse.
I'd actually sign up.
Yeah,
now,
well,
knowing
listen,
what I know.
Listen, Clinton couldn't get 10% in the primary today in that party.
100%.
All right.
Crazy.
Mike, thanks, buddy. I
agree.
appreciate it. Well done there. Let's go to Robert. He is in Kansas City. Go ahead, Robert. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I was just going to give you my experience with my son, who, when he graduated, was thinking about going in the military. And I had to say, hey, man, you need to think about this. Look who's the commander-in-chief. You got a guy that would rather you go in there wearing a dress and be to die on the battlefield like they did in Afghanistan. And it didn't take much. He looked at that and said, okay. I think that was my advice. Wait until you get a better commander in chief. It'll keep you safe at least. And but he went and did something at least as dangerous. He went and studying how to be a teacher now.
Oh, okay. How? So what year was that he thought about getting in?
Well, he graduated I think about 2 years ago now. So he was kind of toying with it even when he went into college. He was toying with the idea of going into the reserves and stuff to help pay for college. And I said, well, you got a same thing. You got a commander-in-chief that enjoys starting wars for making money on his military machine. So, you might wait on that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. I'm sure that, he made the right decision for himself. And, hey, if he's getting into teaching, sounds like he's got a good set of values that Dad handed off. And you know what? We need teachers like that as well.
Yeah. Grandpa was a teacher. I did my service as a teacher for 10 years and tried to talk him out of that, too, a little bit. But he didn't listen to that one.
Well, you can't win them all there, Robert. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. There you go. That's good stuff. 913-408-7957, our text line and our studio line on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, I have many friends in high military leadership positions that had told me that the poor feelings ran so rampant over the last few years that a lot of people ended up just leaving as soon as they could. That's what happened in policing, right? Same thing happened in policing in Kansas City and around the country. So you can't turn these operations around in just a few years, but it is encouraging to see a bump for military recruitment over the last 2.5 months. And if you don't think that ties directly to the guys in charge, from the president to the vice president to Pete Hegseth, defense secretary, and so many others, then I don't know how you're ever going to see the light. I really don't. Scott Fawn will be here in a few minutes. He is with the Missouri Times. We'll get the update from Jeff City as they are actually finally getting down to work. It's like cramming for a college exam. These state legislatures don't do anything for 3 months. Then finally it's like, oh, wait, we got a week left. We should probably get to work. So we'll find out what's going on down there in a few minutes on KCMO. I did want to share this with you because now one of our bordering states has one of the most restrictive gun laws in the country. And that is, I know you're going to be shocked by this, Colorado.
Talk about a bombshell.
Governor Jared Polis signing yesterday a law that, as CBS News reports here, may be the toughest gun control regulations in state history and one of the toughest in the country. Under the new law, it is illegal to buy, sell, and make most semi-automatic firearms without background checks and training. The governor was under heavy pressure to veto the bills from gun rights advocates, including Colorado's Republican members of Congress. They say the new law is unconstitutional. The bill was sponsored by a state rep. His name is Tom Sullivan. He says it's life-saving. He says we have been able to add to the safety of each and every Colorado citizen. Don't you hate when those guns just go around pulling their own triggers and just kind of hurting people on their own? It's the worst. I hate when that happens. Colorado is a prime example of what happens when too many foreigners come in from California.